Yeah. Okay, before we get into offset the ugly, I usually bring something cute.
Who's the bad guy in Star Wars?
Darth Vader.
Now, how do you know he's a bad guy?
Because he's wearing black.
Anything else?
Because he kills some people.
Yep.
Okay, so that's one of my daughters when we were 6, and yes, I am such a nerd that not only do all my daughters know about the Holy Trilogy before they began primary school, but I actually asked them quizzes about the Holy Trilogy. One of my proudest moments and most shameful moments was when one of my daughters at age 8 beat me in an argument about Star Wars. It's a beautiful moment. Now, the reason why I bring that is that even though she was super advanced, being a 6-year-old, smarter than most other 6-year-olds, the thing is, most people, when they get into high school, don't advance beyond that level of analysis. Now, here's a completely hypothetical, not at all stolen from some person I didn't get permission from, just something completely random. Essay about an exam of analysis. Now, if you look carefully, you'll note, even though there's a lot of words and a couple of big words, the level of analysis isn't that far from what Charlotte was showing. We've got, for instance, they mentioned we feel bad because there's a young child in there. It's looking at something. What else? It's being manipulated into competing in beauty pageants. All right, so revealing plot, and talks about interviews. Where is the actual visual language there? And there are a whole bunch of different reasons why teenagers can't analyse stuff that they've grown up with. You know, usual drugs, underage sex, Taylor Swift. But one of the other reasons why I think they are terrible at it is this. I loathe SWAT. I hate SWAT. For those of you, how many people have actually taught SWAT and are going to get really annoyed by me bagging out SWAT right now? No one? Cool. Alright, let's move on. Okay, for those of you who aren't sure, SWAT is an acronym mnemonic to try to remember how to separate the different types of viewing codes. Symbolic codes, written codes, audio codes, technical codes. Now, this doesn't work for a bunch of reasons. One, it implies anything under here is symbolic, and everything not under here isn't symbolic, which is wrong, because everything's symbolic. It also implies anything that's not under technical isn't technical, which is also wrong. Where do camera angles go under? Nah. It also suggests that possibly you should be talking about written codes and audio codes before you even get to technical codes. Alright? Doesn't work on that level. Also, it doesn't work as an acronym. I remember a Year 9 trying to explain to me, oh no, it really works. So she decided to tell me that, yes, symbolic codes, yeah, good. What does W stand for? Written. I forgot. And T, the rest. Which comes out looking a little bit like this. Alright? Kids cannot remember that, so what do they tend to do? They tend to choose one from each, and they move from here to here. And a lot of the time they will talk about this. Oh good, it's an ad. I'm going to talk about all the writing that's on the ad before I actually talk about anything technical about it. And then they'll run out of time. So have they done a visual analysis? No. They've done a textual analysis? Maybe. But not a visual analysis. Instead, I prefer this way. Representation, who the camera sees. Let's move on, come on. Mise-en-scene, what the camera sees. Cinematography, what the camera does, and post-production, what's added after the camera is put away. This is a process by which a film is constructed. They have a script, so they find cast. And then they decide where they're going to shoot it. Are they going to look for a set, or are they going to build a set? And then they grab a cinematographer, and the cinematographer decides where they're going to put the camera. And then when that's all done, it goes back to the studio, and that's when they start chopping up. It's the same process that they use when they take one of their selfies. All your kids have teenagers, so they all have mobile phones, and they all have cameras on it, which means they've got about 368,432 photos of that. And you do, don't you? See? And what does she do? She decides, she picks up the camera. Who am I going to take a photo of now? Being teenagers, except for you, this is not you of course, they're completely self-absorbed, so they decide, I'm going to take a photo of me. Where am I going to stand? Over here. I'm not going to stand over there because last time I did it, someone was on the toilet behind me. How far am I going to do it? I'm going to down here, up here, up here. And then they take it back and they put it on their Twitter account, or what is it now? Instagram, Facebook, and underneath they said, oh, this is just me looking ugly, lol, right? So what have they done? They've gone through the exact same process as a filmmaker. So it makes sense that when we analyse it, we go in that exact same process. So, representation, who the camera sees. Mise en scene, it's French, so you need to pronounce it like you've got a spoon in your mouth and a broken nose. Cinematography, post-production, and it spreads out. So each time they look at a picture, they basically got a logical group of techniques to look through. Casting, costuming, performance, facial expression, always put it last, facial expression, because I'm sick of seeing people trying to get into university writing analyses of these big pictures saying, I know he's a bad guy because he has an angry look on his face. That's a university applicant. No. So make sure that. Oh, let's back it up. Composition, internal framing, lighting, camera distance, camera angles, camera movement, and all the rest on the end. It makes sense. They get the process, they can look at each feature of it, and then they can make their analysis from it. And then they can do a proper analysis like that. There are two things that aren't on there. First off, they don't have juxtaposition, because juxtaposition can be any part. It can be in one of those categories, or it can be a category against it. So, for instance, the male figure is juxtaposed with the female figure. It also doesn't have intertextuality. Really? 6 or 7? Am I done? 6 minutes? Yeah. So we've got about 30 seconds left. Or intertextuality, how you analyse a picture by comparing it to something else and say, hey, that's a little bit racist. All right, rule of thirds. No, we can skip through that. Don't use rule of thirds, that's a general thing. The only time you use rule of thirds is when you're analysing a piece of something, because then you can actually see bits that nobody else sees. Alright, like that. And then you can send the kids out with their phones to do nice little scavenger hunts. Best way to get them to test their knowledge. Give them a scavenger hunt. How to make the school look good. That was a 13-year-old with a mobile phone. Make it look like teachers are bullies. Kids study, a kid being bullied, that's awesome. This is a 14-year-old, did a shot like that. Make the place look foreboding. I think they were about in year 8, maybe. That's a year 8. Beautiful juxtapositioning going on there. And these are just kids, brief introductions using these things, using their mobile phones. And that's 7 minutes. Done. Yeah.